It's Wednesday, August 9th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. Coming up in your sky tonight, over your backyard, off your balcony, wherever you can get a glimpse of the dark, we'll see the Big Dipper to Polaris, Mizar, and Alcor. Tonight, notice the two outer stars in the bowl of the Big Dipper. EarthSky.org tells us those are Dubhe and Merak. They always point to Polaris, the North Star. And Polaris is, part of the Little Dipper. You can see these two famous star patterns tonight. To find the Big Dipper this time of year, look toward the northwest in the evening. The Big Dipper consists of 7 moderately bright stars, so it's often visible on a moonlit night or even in a light-polluted city. If you have a dark night free of moonlight, like those coming up, you can see the 8th star of the Big Dipper. Look carefully at the 2nd star from the end of the Dipper's handle. With that dark sky and good eyesight, you'll see that this star, Mizar, has a nearby companion called Alcor. Arabian stargazers referred to Mizar and Alcor as the horse and rider. These stars are a good test of the night's viewing conditions. If you can't see Alcor, there might be thin clouds up there. These two stars are what's called the naked eye double star, appearing double from our earthly vantage point. But do they orbit each other? Astronomers aren't sure. The distances to these stars, as to most stars, aren't precisely known. If Mizar and Alcor do make up a true binary star, it's a very wide one. If they do lie at the same distance from Earth, their separation is 0.27 light years. That's in contrast to 8 light minutes for Earth's distance from our sun. Still, it's possible that Mizar and Alcor could be this far apart and still be orbiting one another, with a very long orbital period, 750,000 years. That's something breathtaking to ponder as one gazes upwards. Here's the bottom line. Use the Big Dipper to find Polaris, the North Star. Also, notice the two stars, Mizar and Alcor, in the Big Dipper's handle. Alcor, Alcor, potato. Whatever you call it, it's cool. To this broadcaster, this is the very essence of cool. Headline, Slew to offer free live streaming of outer space. Well, it's Slew. And just to bring you up to speed on what Slew is, in case you're wondering, Slew is a robotic telescope service that can be viewed live through a web browser with Flash plugin. It wasn't the first robotic telescope, but it was the first that offered live viewing through a telescope via the web. According to Wikipedia, other online telescopes traditionally emailed a picture to the recipient. This site has a patent on their live image processing method. Slew is an online astronomy platform with live views and telescope rental for a fee. Well, that's what's changed, gentle listeners. Observations come from a global network of telescopes located in places including Spain and Chile. Now, about that name, it's spelled S-L-O-O-H. Well, it seems it's a hack of the word slew, S-L-E-W, which indicates that telescopic movement, modified with O-O-H, to express pleasure and surprise. So there we have it, slew. And now what Slew has for us is anyone will be able to enjoy the space sights through Slew's telescopes from the comfort of their own home, free. Jeff Bennett gets the byline here. He writes it for the science division of PopularMechanics.com. The online streaming service that specializes in outer space, Slew, has just announced that it will be offering free streaming of planetary objects and astronomical phenomena. Previously, to view objects in the sky through Slew's telescopes and streaming service, you had to sign up as a member on its website, which could run you about $5 per month. Slew operates a global network of telescopes, including multiple on Mount Teide of the Canary Islands, 3 in La Dehesa, Chile, 2 locations that have some of the best viewing conditions in the world. SLU also partners with other observatories around the planet to live stream astronomy events through state-of-the-art telescopes. To watch SLU's live streams, simply register for free on its website. They'll ask you if you want to pay for a membership, but you can just click, quote, continue exploring the community, end quotes, to gain access to the live streams, blog posts, and images featured on SLU. However, that free registration, well, there's a limit to the number of photos you can have. And Jay Bennett writes that there's a pretty cool reason to sign up as a paid member. You get to pick where to point the telescopes. If you can swing that $5 a month, you can get 5 reservations per month to point a telescope where you want. A world-class telescope at that. And if you just opt for that free reservation, kick back, enjoy what other folks are excited about in space. And be sure to check SLU to catch a live stream of major astronomy events. For instance, this month's total solar eclipse. We're betting you can see last night's partial lunar eclipse, too, if you search. And later, just a simple meander over to UFOheadlinenews.com will take you to a link. Click that link and enjoy. This broadcaster is enjoying a little fantasy, picturing some other civilization, some other planet, with their version of SLU telescopes watching us right down here on planet Earth. They could be watching Munich, Bavaria, Germany, in fact. And that's the setting for our first sighting of the day. It's MUFON case number 85755. This is an older case, perfect because it's way back Wednesday coming up. But no, this isn't our feature. It's just another sighting. The date is 2004, August 20th, which brings to mind there's something of that anniversary sense. Is it an offshoot of circadian rhythm? Some sort of calendar-triggered muscle memory? Because this happened in August on the 20th, but years ago. And so now, August 8th, the witness reports. Here is the report. Sighting specifics include a viewing distance of over 1 mile. The altitude was treetop. Sighting duration, 3 hours. The features on the object are unknown. The flight path was stationary, and this object is said to have been shaped in a star-like manner. It seemed to go something like this. A friend and me looking out of the windows, noticing 4 lights. They looked, in best case, as airplane warning lights, lights to warn airplanes from a big radio antenna which stands in the next nearer city. Except these lights were all white. At the start of our sighting, only the 3rd light, counted from above, blinked constantly. An hour or so later, only the 2nd light, as counted from above, still was blinking constantly. We noticed no further movements or sounds, but the situation really was weird, and yes, fascinating. I'm absolutely sure it wasn't lights on the antenna, because I've lived in this region since childhood, and I know even the further region many kilometers away very well. Sadly, no photos were made. No photos, but a very interesting sighting. Hold on, we're going to make a big shift in geolocation here. We're swinging across to Morrison, Colorado. This is MUFON case number 85738. The date of this sighting is August 6th, 2017. It was reported on the 8th of August. Here's the summary from our witness. I didn't see the object until I got home and looked at the pictures. I took these pictures, camera, phone. There is a photo. Find it later by heading on over to UFOheadlinenews.com. Sighting specifics offer us a viewing distance, in this case, of over 1 mile. The altitude was unknown. So were the features on the object. The flight path doesn't apply, according to our witness, and this object had a circle shape. There's weather reported for Morrison, Colorado, which is known, by the way, to this broadcaster to have unseasonal snowfalls. Long story. The maximum temperature, 73 degrees Fahrenheit, 23 degrees Celsius. The low that night was 53 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Celsius. The maximum visibility was 10 miles and 16 kilometers, but the minimum dropped down to 4 miles, 6 kilometers because it was raining, thundering. Here's the report. We have just moved to Colorado. We wanted to visit the Red Rocks area. On the way to the amphitheater, I had the passenger side window rolled down, and I was taking pictures from my cell phone. I was taking random pictures of the mountains in the distance because I liked the way the clouds were hanging over those mountains. It wasn't until we got home and I was looking through all of our pictures that I noticed a very bizarre-looking circular object in one of our pictures. I zoomed in on that picture, and all I could say was, "What is that?" I sent the picture to my daughter. I sent another to my friend who's interested in the unknown, and they both said I need to inquire about this. I am very curious about what this could be. I did not take this picture because I saw the object, but after seeing what I caught on my camera, I'm glad I did not actually witness this object, because this sight has caught me off guard. The photo caused me to gasp. You'll see why. Check out that photo, gentle listeners. May we have a drum roll, please, for the man in the high castle who has brought us this for Way Back Wednesday. Headline: Russian cosmonauts and generals confirm UFOs are real. This is from ufoevidence.org. However, as is the case in almost all of our Way Back Wednesdays, it's a mashup, an editing of information from various sites, obscure sites, and the less obscure, such as thefullwiki.org. Here's their synopsis to introduce us to this theme. The strange tale of the May 18th, 1981 event, during which cosmonauts Vladimir Kovalyonok and Viktor Savinky are approached by an alien spacecraft and its occupants. It's known as the Salyut UFO sighting, that's spelled Salyut. Between May 14th and May 18th, 1981, cosmonauts Vladimir Kovalyonok and Viktor Savinky supposedly established a contact with an object of unknown origin while working at the Salyut 6 orbital station. The two-man crew of the Soyuz T-4 docked with Salyut 6 March 12, 1981, and were to spend 75 days in orbit. On May 14th, Kovalyonok was conducting a scientific experiment when he noticed a round object appearing a kilometer away. He alerted Savinky, and they observed the object. Kovalyonok took a camera, filmed the object for 45 minutes. The object seemed to be half the size of the Salyut 6, about 8 meters. For the rest of the day, the UFO remained at that position. In the next cosmic day, it was only 100 meters away. Now that it was closer, the cosmonauts observed it more carefully. There was no sign of a propulsor, nothing similar which could have given the ship an impulse to get closer. The ship had 24 windows, divided between 3 levels. They could also see 3 humanoid creatures. The creatures were wearing helmets, but it was still possible to see their faces, big eyebrows, straight noses, and big blue eyes which didn't express any emotions. According to the cosmonauts, none of the muscles on the faces were moving. All of the movements seemed normal, although somewhat mechanical, artificial. As the beings appeared to be friendly, the cosmonauts requested permission from Earth to try some visual and physical contact. The first, the visual contact, was cleared. The second, the physical contact, was denied. Kovalyonok grabbed and opened a map of the universe toward the beings. They answered and opened theirs, which was much more precise, complex. They pointed to the solar system inside the Milky Way. Kovalyonok then made a positive sign with his hand. The being answered with the same gesture, and then the spaceship went away very fast, but soon it was back. The spaceship repeated this action 6 times in all, with no clear reason. And then, using a powerful flashlight, Kovalyonok tried to communicate via Morse code. He signaled, quote, "Soviet cosmonauts salute Earth visitors," end quotes, in Russian. The beings didn't understand, so Kovalyonok tried to signal, quote, "Are you receiving us?" end quotes, in English. But again, there was no answer. He tried then to use binary language. He signaled 101101, with a flashlight. The message was not a simple answer to Kovalyanik's words, but a logarithm to the base used by him.
What makes new Simply Summer's Eve Feminine Wash different? It's simple. Seriously, that's the answer. It's made with simple ingredients. Ingredients that help stop odor and help you maintain a naturally healthy pH, gently and effectively. Here's what Simply Summer's Eve ingredients do not include: harsh chemicals, dyes, alcohol, or parabens. And it comes in light, refreshing scents like mandarin blossom and coconut water. New Simply Summer's Eve Gentle Foaming Wash and Cleansing Cloths, gentle by nature. Click the tile to learn more.
The next day, the beings were flying outside their ship. The cosmonauts requested permission to disembark. That permission was denied. On day 4, the ship disappeared. Meanwhile, back on planet Earth, on June 18, 1981, the Gosplan called an extraordinary meeting. Well, Gosplan didn't mean anything to this broadcaster. We looked it up, wiki again. Gosplan, G-O-S-P-L-A-N. It's the State Planning Committee, commonly known as Gosplan. It's the agency responsible in Russia for central economic planning, the Soviet Union. Established in 1921 and remaining in existence until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, Gosplan had as its main task the creation and administration of a series of 5-year plans governing the economy of the USSR. Interesting, they called an extraordinary meeting as a result of this encounter. Several Soviet authorities, ufologists, and cosmonauts attended this meeting. Kovalyanik and Savinky were present, and Soyuz 3 cosmonaut Georgy Timofeyevich Beregovoy also participated. Kovalyanik presented the video he filmed with his camera, showing the UFO and its beings. There's an extraordinary video on YouTube. We'll post the link. No, we cannot vouch for the credibility, but it's fascinating. Here's an insertion for this story from the Pegasus Research Consortium, the UFO files. Headline: Russian cosmonaut sees UFO while in orbit aboard Salyut 6 space station. And there's a sketch. It's complicated. It isn't in English. It's a sketch drawn by Kovalyanik. It's the object he saw in space May 5th, 1981, aboard Salyut. Yes, there is a slight discrepancy in the dates. We know the dates as the 14th through the 18th. This one tags May 5th. Interesting. Did it appear earlier? The summary we've heard before: Cosmonaut Major General Vladimir Kovalyanik had an encounter during the Salyut 6 mission in 1981. Here's a quote: "I just made some gymnastic exercises when I saw in front of me, through a porthole, an object which I could not explain. I saw this object, and then something happened I could not explain. Something impossible according to the laws of physics." End quotes. There's more to this quote, and here it is. Many cosmonauts have seen phenomena which are far beyond the experiences of Earthmen. For 10 years, I never spoke on such things. The encounter you asked me about on May 5th, 1981, at about 6 p.m. during the Salyut mission. At that time, we were over the area of South Africa, moving towards the area of the Indian Ocean. A small object can appear large and far away in space. It is impossible to determine distances. Sometimes it can be the other way around. Sometimes a cloud of dust appears like a large object. Anyway, I saw this object, and then something happened I could not explain, something impossible. This object had shape, elliptical. It flew with us. From a frontal view, it looked like it would rotate in flight direction. It only flew straight, but then a kind of explosion happened, very beautiful to watch, an explosion of golden light. This was the first part. Then, 1 or 2 seconds later, a second explosion followed somewhere else, and 2 spheres appeared, golden and very beautiful. After this explosion, I just saw white smoke, and then a cloud-like sphere. Before we entered the darkness, we flew through the terminator, that twilight zone between night and day. We flew eastwards, and when we entered the darkness of the Earth's shadow, I could not see them any longer. The two spheres never returned. Twilight Zone. Perfect. Now let's really dig in. Here is the Michael Hessman article. During his lecture at the International UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada, March 6, 2002, Michael Hessman presented filmed interviews with 4 Soviet cosmonauts and 4 high-ranking Soviet generals. This is a translation by Valery Uvarov, St. Petersburg, of the transcript at that lecture. The first is a statement from cosmonaut Major General Vladimir Kovalyanek, by now a familiar name, and some of this material will be familiar. It's a previous quote that we just heard, but there's more. Here we go. Many cosmonauts have seen phenomena which are far beyond the experiences of Earthmen, and for 10 years I never spoke on such things. The encounter you asked me about happened May 5th, 1981, 6 p.m., during the mission. At that time, we were over South Africa, moving towards the Indian Ocean. I had just completed some gymnastic exercises when in front of me I saw through a porthole an object which I could not explain. It is impossible to determine distances when one is in space. There are small objects that appear to be closer and vice versa. Sometimes a cloud of dust will appear to be an object. This object had shape, elliptical. It flew with us. And something impossible, according to the laws of physics, happened. From a frontal view, this object looked as though it would rotate while flying. After the beautiful explosion and the golden light and the golden orbs, 2 of them appeared, I just saw white smoke, and then a cloud like a sphere. There were explosions. There was a very beautiful golden light. That was the first part. Before we entered the darkness, we flew through the Terminator, that Twilight Zone-like area between day and night. We flew eastwards, and when we entered the darkness of the Earth's shadow, I could no longer see this object, and the 2 spheres never returned. Here's more from cosmonaut Musa Manarov. He was on the Mir in 1991. Here's his experience. Not the same event. It happened during a visit mission when all of our attention was focused on the slowly approaching space capsule. I was close to the great porthole, and from there I could see our approaching visitors. I watched everything very carefully. When the capsule came closer, I filmed it with a professional Betacam camera. Suddenly I noticed something below the spaceship, which at first looked like a kind of antenna. Only when I looked closer and analyzed the situation, I realized there was no antenna at all. But first I thought there was part of the construction that looked like an antenna. But then this element started to move. It moved away from the ship. So I grabbed the radio and told them, "Hey boys, you are losing something." Those boys, we figure, were fellow cosmonauts doing work outside the ship. This, of course, alarmed them. With all my experience, especially with docking maneuvers in space, I can tell you that especially in this phase, simply nothing can break off at all. If something could have been loose, it would have been torn off before, during the launch, the maneuvers, the turns, all of these much more energetic flight phases. Now we were just gliding slowly toward each other without any pressure on the capsule. And then this something they were losing started to move downwards. When it flew away, it attracted all of our attention. It looked like it was rotating. It was difficult to estimate its dimensions. If it was close or far away, I could not say. It was in free sight, and in space there's that difficulty in estimating size and distance. I can only say for sure that it was not very close, since I set the camera for infinity. If it had just been a screw or something close to us, they would have been out of focus. The object was quite far away, in any case at least 300 feet, since this was the distance of the space capsule, and I had the impression the object was beyond the capsule. It is possible that it was a kind of UFO. We can't say with any certainty what it was. It was definitely not a bigger piece of space junk, not a rocket part, since this would have been located. The space surveillance, ours and the American, locate all the bigger objects in space. They're followed. For every minute, we know their position and flight direction. If such an object would have come so close to the Mir, they would have located it and informed us. I don't think it was a big piece of space junk, not debris. There are lots of those in Earth orbit, satellite parts, but our space surveillance locates them. And according to them, there was nothing there. The Mir mission in 1990, cosmonaut Gennady Strukalov reports this. On the last 2 flights, I saw something. During the flight in 1990, I called to our commander, "Come to the porthole." Unfortunately, but this is typical, we did not manage to put a film in the camera quickly enough to film it. We were looking at Newfoundland. The atmosphere was completely clear, and suddenly a kind of sphere appeared. I want to compare it with a Christmas tree decoration, beautiful, shiny, glittering. I saw it for 10 seconds. The sphere appeared in the same way as it disappeared. What it was, what size it had, I don't know. There was nothing I could compare it with. I was like struck by lightning by this phenomenon. It was a perfect sphere, glittering like a Christmas tree decoration. I reported it to the Mission Control Center, but I did not say that I have seen a UFO. I said I saw a kind of unusual phenomenon. I had to be careful with the choice of my words. I don't want someone to speculate too much or to misquote me. We don't want to misquote here on Way Back Wednesdays on UFO Headline News at Inception Radio Network, and there's such a delicious amount of information still to be served. We're going to make this part 2 next week, leave you hanging. We'll continue with quotes from Cosmonaut General Pavel Romanovich Popovich of the Soviet Air Force and the head of the General High Command Academy of Air Defense, the former High Commander of Air Defense for the Far East, Colonel General Gennady Reshetnikov. And don't forget the final analysis by Michael Hessman, who wrote this. We'll get his keen insights next week on Way Back Wednesday. Now we've got to fly because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Follow today's broadcast at UFO Headline News or iHeartRadio or YouTube. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.